recording.
Hi, I'm Elinor Silverstein, and today I'm here with Rupert Isaacson from the Horse Boy Center here in Elgin, Texas. And Rupert works specifically with children with autism and does the most amazing work working with children. And yesterday, I want to share with you, we did a group where the trainers were teaching mathematics on the ground, on the grass, outside, using their human bodies. And I was in such awe of watching how they were talking about cutting the pie and looking into thirds and measuring the circumference of a circle by laying their bodies down on the ground and successfully learning mathematics this way. I only wish that I had had this as a kid. And so I said this to you, Rupert, and I realized I really want to share with people the whole picture of what you do, or what you would like to share with people, what you do with Horse Boy and how this helps kids.
Okay, well, thank you. Those of you who are watching also know how awesome Elinor is, and just as an aside, sitting here in this woodland in Texas, I've been trying to get Elinor to come in and train our people, particularly in gut brain, vagal nerve stuff, for about 2 years, so I'm very thrilled that she's finally here. Okay, so what we do is something called movement method. It's just the name we came up with because we move while we do it. It's kinetic learning, and it came about purely by necessity for me, because my son was diagnosed with autism back in 2004, and all the experts were telling me all this negative stuff about autism. It's dysfunction, disease, disorder. But I'm a journalist by training. I'm also a horse trainer by training. And as a journalist, you're trained to always ask, what's the other side of the story? Can't be all bad, right? So I found the most successful adult autist I could find, Dr. Temple Grandin. Many of you know who she is. If you don't know who she is, she's an adult autist, professor of animal sciences at Colorado State University, multiple best-selling author of books about the brain, autism, etc., and revolutionized the livestock industry in America to make the slaughterhouses less stressful for the animals. And when she was 3, she was rocking in a corner, non-verbal, wiping her poo on the walls. So when I went to interview her, I said, how does my son become you? And she told me 3 things. She said, follow his passionate interests and his obsessions, including his stimming, including all the stuff that they're telling you he shouldn't do, because that's where he's at. He's communicating with you there, that's what he wants to do. Then go outside in nature as much as you can to work, because there's no bad sensory triggers that cause the amygdala in the brain to start producing cortisol, which shuts the brain down for learning. And let him move, because most of the kids on the spectrum are kinetic learners. I said, thank you very much. I came back here, I noticed that the therapists that were working with my kid were not doing those things. So I said, hey, I just went to talk to the world's most successful autist. She says, do it like this, you're not. And they immediately got very aggressive with me. And again, as a journalist, I had the reaction of, well, why are you being aggressive? The only reason humans get aggressive is when they're afraid of something. What are you afraid of? The only logical thing I could think of that you could be afraid of is that you know deep down that your shtick doesn't work, and you're charging me $100+ an hour for this. I'm going to take the risk of doing what Temple Grandin told me to do, and I never looked back. And so what we do in movement method and horse boy method, which is an equine therapy as well, is we let the kids mentor us. That's the first thing. And we work very closely with adult autists and people with ADD, ADHD, depression, anxiety, any neuropsychiatric thing, to help us understand from the inside how to serve them. They lead, we follow. And we have come up with a series of kinetic learning tools that can do the whole K through 12 curriculum, working from the most basic communication, a child who's non-verbal, for example, right up to teaching, say, pre-college math, right out here in the forest using this stuff. Okay, but we can also do it in a classroom. We can do a homeschool environment. We can adapt it anywhere. What we do, in a nutshell, is 3 things. We prepare the brain for learning by getting rid of the cell danger response, which most kids on the spectrum and people with neuropsychiatric conditions have. They have overactive amygdalas that produce too much cortisol. You put them in the wrong environment, the cortisol goes crazy. Cortisol kills brain cells. This idea of cortisol is to stop you being distracted by things when there's a threat, so you can't access your intellect. So we get rid of the cell danger response that prepares the brain for learning. Then we begin neuroplasticity, the rebuilding of the brain, through the creation of oxytocin in the body, which cancels out the cortisol, and that's done through hip rocking motions, which started with us on horseback, and now we've got a million cool ways to do it. And then we actually teach, and we work with about, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 universities worldwide, creating the modules, but we're always still mentored, this is crucial, by the populations that we serve. This is, I think, what sets us apart, really, from most of the other therapeutic, educational, kinetic things out there, because we're not the only ones doing this kind of thing. It's, instead of being a bunch of clever neurotypical people saying, oh, we can come up with a bunch of answers for this, it's the opposite. It's, if we realize that if you're serving a population that is articulate and intelligent, and you don't let them mentor you, then you're insane. It's always going to be doing it like that, pinning the tail on the donkey.
So can you give me an example of what the kinetic movement looks like, or?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so the first thing you need to do if you're going to get rid of the cell danger response and get the brain into neuroplasticity is you have to move the old tushy, okay? And you have to do it in a way that either goes forward, backward, or side to side. Forward, backwards rhythms create oxytocin. The easiest way is if we were to get up and do a little salsa right now and dance. A fantastic way is to do it on the back of a horse, particularly if the horse is in a collected rhythm. Another really good way is on my shoulders. Another really good way is on a swing.
You mean you put the child on your shoulders?
I put the child on my shoulders, I put the child on a swing, I put the child maybe on my lap on a swing, deep pressure, arm around, voice in the ear, not a challenging frontal gaze that they have to defend themselves from.
Not a
No.
Okay, got
so
it.
you let the eye contact come. People have this obsession with eye contact. If I do this, I either send a threat signal or a sexual signal. It's too much. We don't naturally do this unless we have some reason to eye gaze. Normally, we make good contact, but it's fleeting. And what I found in general is that kids come to this in their own time just fine. In fact, if you ask them to do this too much, you kill everything, because you just press that cell danger response again. You just create cortisol, and you don't need that to learn. When you're, for example, let's say you're listening to this podcast, but you're not looking at the screen right now, you're turning away to water your plant or do the dishes or something, you still take the information in when you're driving, listening to NPR. You don't need to be looking into the eyes of the newscaster. So often actually letting the child move while apparently turning their back on you is often a really good way to let them learn, if they're acutely sensitive to the cell danger response. Just let them